Okay, now we are live for real. And it's just the two of us today. Rick is not feeling well. So it's you and me, but that's not unusual in our
Oh,
lifetimes. You feeling all right?
oh yeah, it's just it's raining here, very humid. It's super humid and raining. It was a quiet day. I didn't go out today because I figured if I went out yesterday and got back in one piece, that was good. So I figured today I would just stay inside.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
too. I thought about going out, but really I was mostly working on my agenda for tonight because I didn't even post the event until this morning, and I'm not ever really that late doing this, but I was just so distracted last week with the campaign.
Yeah. Last night was a long evening too.
Yeah. So, so we may as well go ahead and get started since we're not waiting on anyone. And you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Venita, and I'm joining you from Connecticut. And here is my ticket into the circle tonight.
All right. And I am Michelle in Brooklyn, New York, with my ticket, which is The Coming Plague, Newly Emerging Diseases in a World Out of Balance by Laurie Garrett, who is a science writer. And this particular book was written in 1994, full of stories of plagues throughout history. But she has been as much involved in documenting and commentary on coronavirus as she has been in anything else. So anyone that gets a chance to follow her, she's very active on Twitter. The other day, I posted a really good discussion she had on Democracy Now. Amy Goodman interviewed her. It's really, really good. Really, just kind of helping us come to terms with the severity of the coronavirus crisis, where we are in it right now. So, but tonight, we are missing our third co-host, Rick Terry, and hopefully he'll feel better soon. Tonight we are starting chapter 11, called Hatari. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Hatari Veni Dogo. Wait. Veni Dogo, which means danger, a very little thing. The origins of AIDS. And this is a really, really long chapter. I think we're going to read it in 4 separate parts. And so tonight is part 1. And next week we'll be on pages 310 to 334, which is the part 2. So let me go ahead and read the summary. Chapter 11, pages 281 to 310. In the first quarter of chapter 11, Hatari Veni Dogo
I'm glad you're
Very
doing
little.
that. I said, I was hoping you were going to read that because I've been sitting here for the past 5 minutes trying to figure out that word. And I said, hopefully Michelle will read that because I'm going to butcher that word.
To just say danger, right?
That's all they had to say. That's it.
But that's our girl Laurie. She goes for the exotic.
Yes.
The origins of AIDS. Garrett takes us to the very beginning of this strange new cluster of diseases. She starts by introducing us to a few people who represent the early victims of the AIDS epidemic, including a heroin addict in Newark, a gay man in San Francisco, another gay man in Manhattan, and a sex worker in Tanzania who was a woman. She notes the June 5, 1981 CDC report on unusual cases among gay men, primarily among Los Angeles residents. Attitudes toward the victims lead to delayed responses among politicians and the medical and public health sectors. While the community hesitates, cases of AIDS spread among heterosexual men and women, intravenous drug users, sex workers, babies of women who used drugs or worked in the sex trade, hemophiliacs, and people receiving blood transfusions in this country, and others. All the early cases involved men who were Caucasian, gay, aged between 29 and 36 years, suffered PCP, which is pneumocystis carinii pneumonia, along with candida and cytomegalovirus infections. They had abnormal immune responses, reported multiple sex partners, and occasionally used amyl nitrate poppers as sexual stimulants. Doctors and other medical professionals had their own fears to manage, and the gay community, too, was slow to embrace the news of this new pox on their house. Into the gap came New York's Dr. Joseph Sonnabend, known as a good clap doctor, and gay playwright Larry Kramer. Sonnabend would tell patients, "You're fucking yourself to death." And Kramer would found the Gay Men's Health Crises Organization. Both men were seeking ways to bring the message home that the gay community was facing a real danger. The CDC would later link Kaposi's sarcoma, PCP, and homosexuality, which would have significance for how the agency was able to find initial funds to learn about the new outbreak. Swept into power in November 1980 on the promise of slashing the federal bureaucracy, Reagan vowed to reduce spending in all areas other than military, domestic law enforcement, the space shuttle program, and a handful of other sectors. He had also promised to cut taxes and sent a bill for the largest tax reduction in U.S. history to Congress for approval. To protect Curran's budget, CDC Director Foge took the epidemiology group out of the STD division, which expected severe budget cuts, and hid it in his own discretionary budget under the name Task Force on Kaposi's Sarcoma and Opportunistic Infections. Nobody in the White House would know what Kaposi's was until they researched it and learned it was a cancer of elderly men, Reagan's constituency. GRID, or gay-related immunodeficiency disease, would eventually be renamed AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, to reflect the growing understanding that multiple populations were being victimized by this new plague. Autopsies revealed that the young victims displayed severe organ damage. Vast expanses of tissue were necrotic. Microbes of all types, bacterial, fungal, and viral, had invaded, and it seemed every organ showed signs of having been colonized and damaged. Much of the worst damage was caused by microbes that were usually utterly harmless to humans. And that is the summary. So now my voice is tired. So why don't you start us off somewhere, Venita?
Okay. Okay, what, if anything, did I learn in this week's reading? Throughout this book, politics have played a key role in whether scientists are able to get the funding that they need to service those with diseases, if they're able to get the funding they need to do more research so they can try to solve the problems that these diseases present. And again, in this chapter with AIDS, so many times the politics was more work put into the politics, trying to get the funding, manipulating funds, taking funds from the STD programs to try to put it over here. And it just, I found that I didn't realize until I started to read Coming of Plague how much politics plays, what role it plays, and whether diseases are treated, whether they're ignored, whether they're neglected. So I think every week I'm just learning more and more, not only about diseases, but the politics behind diseases and who determines through politics who lives and dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize either.
I didn't realize it.
How much of a factor politics were.
Yes.
And it's a learning that it's quite distressing.
I found it to be very distressing.
Yeah.
Because hundreds and thousands of people die every, constantly, that didn't have to die if you didn't have to wade through all the politics. In previous chapters with other epidemics or pandemics, wading through the politics, going to remote places that is, and the urgency was always there, having to go through all the government officials, having to go through the old boys network, had to go through this. It was in the process, all the people that are dying and not being treated. And even in some instances, there were drugs to help people in other nations, but getting those drugs, it's incredible. Just from politics kills.
Yeah.
It just kills.
Yeah.
Of course, we're in that position now.
Right.
With coronavirus. They're sitting on Capitol Hill. I don't know what they're doing at this point. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Corona is going rampant. Down in El Paso, I don't know if you watched the news today, the update on Corona. Just to give you that example, they don't know what they're going to do tomorrow. They don't have a clue. One state is having difficulties because they have more than 100 doctors out. And in one particular area, they either have COVID or treating or in quarantine or taking care of family members with COVID. So that's presenting a problem now because more and more of our healthcare providers are falling prey to the coronavirus, which in fact are probably taking it home to their families. Where it's going to be a very long winter.
Definitely.
Very long winter, and they're still not providing them with the resources, not just PPE, not just just support period that they need to be able to stay well enough to treat us. It's a lot going on.
Yeah, and while it is distressing to see how much of a role politics plays in how health resources are distributed, it's it's the same cabal of old white men that endanger anything that supports life, and I don't know what's wrong with them. Obviously something is wrong, but anything that adds to the health or development or growth of human beings, they go out of their way to stop or limit. Education, social services, the environment, just anything, other than the military and the police. But anyway, I'm gonna read question 4. Rick probably thought he was escaping me messing with him on question 4.
Okay.
But you can run, Rick, but you can't hide.
I know. He might be listening. I hope he is. I hope he's laying there in bed, trying to get better and listening to us tonight.
That's right.
We miss him.
Still in graduate school at UC Berkeley, Bobby Campbell, already a nurse, was the baby-faced member of the group, Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. He wanted being gay in 1981 to be playful and joyous. Never mind those serious political homosexual rights types who were embarrassed by flamboyant queens. Nurse Campbell, now I don't know this word, swa in drag, sounds like something French, right? Called himself Sister Florence Nightmare, not Nightingale, Nightmare. This passage reminded me of the picture of Rick wearing a French maid's mini dress, not his best look. It also makes me wonder, what is your belief about what life is supposed to be? Is life meant to be playful and joyous, serious, or something else? And what leads you to this belief? So first I have to say, I don't know, did you see that picture, Venita? Maybe a couple of months ago, a few months ago, Rick posted this picture on Facebook, so it's public, of him wearing a little black mini dress, made like a French uniform, with little white apron, no stockings, no bare legs, with his mustache and beard intact. And he did not make for a pretty girl.
I didn't
And
see
he said
that.
that his girlfriend challenged him dared him to do this. So he did it.
How could I have missed that? I didn't see that. You
Yes.
know, it really takes a real alpha male to dress up in a French maid outfit with a full beard, as masculine as Rick is, minus the hosiery.
Yes.
I have to give Rick a hand. He got 2 thumbs up. I wish he was here to see this. I have to see that picture. Oh my goodness. That must have been a sight to behold.
Yes.
Only Rick.
Only Rick.
Mm.
But it also was a very joyful, playful act. And that's really what led me to this question, of what do you think life is supposed to be? Because, I mean, I kind of, I mean, the thing about us is we were young adults at the start of this AIDS crisis. So, we had a sense of the spirit of the times. Caught the tail end of the sexual revolution, and and understand this feeling of wanting life to be gay and joyous and playful, and and then boom, AIDS hit the scene, and that was a downer.
Definitely. I mean, I remember. I remember vividly when AIDS hit the scene.
Yeah.
And we did live in a time that was joyful and gay and fun, and I guess it's probably I'm going to a little cultural shock right now with all this stuff going on now. They're putting the other stuff to the side. Just I'm like, what is this? Hold up. Aren't we taking life a little bit too serious now? Because in the 70s, it was a fabulous life as far as I was concerned. Until, of course, AIDS came along and put a damper on things, And people, unlike this pandemic, it came out when AIDS first came on the scene, or we were aware of it through public announcement campaigns. That was even confusing, because just like any other pandemic or epidemic, it starts out with the brown person from somewhere, although and that be not true. So there's a lot of conflicting information as it was today, as they were learning more about it and it was unfolding. But at any rate, the heterosexual community took AIDS very serious. The folks I knew, it wasn't like today with this pandemic going on and people out there fighting to take off masks. People weren't fighting to take off Trojans. Matter of fact, the stock went through the roof. I meant to buy some. People were really taking heed. They understood that this could kill you. And until you did die, you're going to wish you were dead. There was no cure. There was no vaccination. They didn't even know what drugs to treat it with at this point. So we took it very serious. But I do remember that time, and it was a scary, scary time. It was very scary. I think that was the first time that I've ever been jolted by a disease. It's when AIDS came on the scene. Not syphilis, not gonorrhea, not STDs, but AIDS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Very serious, very sad time. It was a very sad time for those that contracted AIDS.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the question about what life is is meant to be. I really wanted Rick's input on this question. I think Rick was a philosophy major.
Yes.
Anyway.
I guess it told me, yeah.
Okay. And I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, from 6 decades in, that I believe, you know, life really is about balance and finding the right balance between serious and playful. Now, I didn't see that at 20, you know, when I wanted life to be playful. But it from this vantage, I do think it's about a balance, a balance that's, you know, kind of hard to achieve. But I think what kind of leads me there to that conclusion is I just believe it's always been like this. You know, I mean, when I think about what life for early man must have been like, you know, with lions and dinosaurs and, you know, all kinds of beasts roaming the earth, looking for something to eat. And, you know, man is not the strongest of animals that have graced the earth. So, you know, and you know, and you know, knowing what we know about how damaging a sedentary lifestyle is to our bodies, and, you know, it just seems like we really were built to be in motion, built to be, you know, kind of on the run. You know, and we might find a cave, you know, every now and then that we could lay our heads down and take a little break, but it seemed like you always had to sleep with an eye open. You know, until we could figure out, you know, how to put doors on caves, and provide a way to, you know, allow ourselves to have a little bit more rest. But just in terms of the human body, you know, I think we're, you know, there are things that give our bodies pleasure, things that give our bodies pain, and, you know, and all of it kind of seems to be sending us a message about who we are and what we need, and, you know, how we should be spending our time and energy. So. But Rick, hopefully you will come back next week and tell us what the philosophers say.
Yes.
What say you, Venita?
I was going to say, it sort of feels like that now when you were talking about the past, when there were lions and dragons and dinosaurs and all kinds of things running around. Well, it almost, you know, the past almost 4 years almost felt that way, to be honest with you. Like we had stepped back into another time. Where, yes. That's way, and that actually has nothing to do, actually it does have something to do with what you just said. It happens to fit an analogy of how I've been feeling for the last almost 4 years with this administration, or if you want to call it administration. Like we were just running for our lives and sleep with one eye open until we can cage these beasts, so that we can get some rest. And we do have a new president, and we're trying to cage the beast so we can start working to live again and maybe have some joyous time again, maybe have a little peace again. I'm sorry, I guess it just, you know, not to change something, it just fit the whole feeling, actually, because I almost feel like we're back there again when you describe that. But I'm looking forward.
Yeah.
Looking forward.
Yeah. Yeah, to joy and play and pleasure.
I had to use my dictionary with Laurie Garrett, Michelle.
Huh?
I had to go back to using my dictionary with Laurie Garrett.
Yeah, she takes me there too.
Yeah, there's a couple things in there like poppers. I had heard that term many, many years ago. Of course, we were young. And if you're not into those scenes, what do you know about poppers?
Right.
I mean, because
I had
I've
never heard of them.
Right. I mean, she brought it back. I'm like, I think I heard that before. And I did during that time, but we weren't in those scenes, so we wouldn't have known. So I looked up popper to see what it was. Did you look it up? Or did you know what it was?
No, I didn't know what it was, and I didn't look it up.
Oh, well, I did. It usually it was supposed to be used for people that had heart ailments. And that's, of course, under the medical guidance of your physician. However, I guess folks discovered that you can use it for other things. And the way, what they would do is obviously change it into a form that can be inhaled. And of course, there were some really bad things that could happen to you from abusing it. However, the main purpose for using it to inhale was to relax your anus, which caused a lot more promiscuous sexual behavior. Yes. Word of the day. Poppers.
Okay.
And that's some new stuff for us.
Yeah.
And that was
glad you looked it up.
Yeah, because I was like, and that circular, it was used by gay men for that purpose. Used and abused. It was very, it was on scene. It was on scene, yes.
Well, that's more informative. So I didn't look it up because Laurie Garrett gave a little definition of as a sexual stimulant. So, so I just went with that, but it did not take me where you just took me.
She said a sexual stimulant. I'm like, well, what kind? Because I mean, instead of me guessing stuff, because it did for a minute, I started running my head.
Actually, where that took me, it made me think of a hard-on.
That's what I thought. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. See, we got to get ourselves together. And once again, we were very young. If you're not into the gay scene, we were heterosexuals, you would not have known a lot about it. But that's what it took me. That's what it took me at first. And then, I got overly curious. I said, well, let me see exactly what it is. And then when I read it, I'm like, oh, all right. I just said, I sat on down after that. I said, okay.
As my mama used to say, keep on living.
Keep on living. That's what nosy will get you.
Yeah. You're going to learn some stuff. Will you read question 5? Why not?
Okay. Question 5. Swept into power in November 1980 on the promise of slashing the federal bureaucracy, Reagan vowed to reduce spending in all areas other than the military, domestic law enforcement, the space shuttle program, and a handful of other sectors. He had always promised to cut taxes and send a bill for the largest tax reduction in U.S. history to Congress for approval. To protect Koran's budget's CDC director, is it Fogue?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
Okay. Fogg took the epidemiology group out of the STD division, which expected severe budget cuts, and hid in his own discretionary budget under the name Task Force on Kaposi's sarcoma and optimistic infections. Nobody in the White House would know what Kaposi was until they researched it and learned it was the cancer of elderly men, Reagan's constituency. The monster in chief had taught us what it looks like when a president clearly favors some people over others. President-elect Biden promises to be a president for all Americans. With Americans now so clearly divided, do you believe Biden will be able to keep this promise? What advice would you give the incoming president for how to go about bridging the nation's divide? Why have elderly white men traditionally had so much power in U.S. politics? Do you believe elderly white men will always wield inordinate power in U.S. politics? Or what must be done to create more fairness and equality to our divided system? Why are Americans so focused on military and domestic spending to the detriment of almost everything else? Finally, what do you think of the way the CDC director found funds to address early research into the AIDS outbreak? A lot of questions. You were busy, Michelle.
Yeah.
As always.
Well, I would just say to that last question on the CDC director, I thought that was pretty smart, and as we were talking about earlier, it's a shame that he had to do that.
Yes.
To find some money, and it was just a little bit, like $200,000.
Wasn't much.
But just a little bit to get the process started on trying to figure out what this thing was, and why that would not have gotten immediate support from the White House and Congress is a national shame. But I'm glad that he was the person in that position, and that he, and that he did that. And, and I think that section also kind of illuminates a sort of divide between the science world and the political world. With this thing about, well, by the time those stupid folks figure out what this is,
right.
We'll be off to the races. And so it just made me wonder about how much of the disdain for science comes from Americans being made to feel stupid.
And using the scientists as a scapegoat for a more sinister plan. I thought about that. If you think back when the AIDS epidemic was starting, and I do remember in the very infancy of the disease, it wasn't a big deal. Although they were white men, they were pretty much at that point the bulk of the people that were contracting AIDS. It was not a big deal. They were going to bathhouses. They weren't of the elite. It did not become a big deal until it hit Hollywood. Thank God for Liz Taylor. Okay? When you had those leading men, Rock Hudson, which I never knew was gay. And all the, as a matter of fact, from what I've read during that time and since then, well, hell, more than half of the leading men that was in Hollywood was gay. The Brady Bunch.
Yeah, there were a lot of shockers.
Right. So that's when it really they started to put a lens on things. There were fundraisers, money was coming from all over the damn place. So here we go again with those biasness and socioeconomics. As what they're doing right here. The folks that have died, that have taken the brunt of this virus, have been the hourly workers that are serving you every day in every way. Has been poor people from economically disadvantaged areas or lower income areas, whether it be Black, white, Filipino, it doesn't make a difference. So, and I see the same thing playing out with AIDS. It's the same exact scenario. It was not a problem as long as it was them. We can just drag our feet. We don't need to research anything. The right people had not contracted it, and the right people definitely had not died. Remember that? Because I remember.
The shame is that sitting here in 2020,
that's what I'm saying,
about an epidemic that broke out 40 years ago.
Yes.
And to be saying that nothing has changed is shameful.
It's one that, I don't even know if there's a word that's more shameful than the word shameful. Because it's beyond that.
Yeah.
It's so.
Yeah. It's really, it's like we are not learning. We haven't learned anything.
Well, let's say the elites do not care. Those are the ones in power. They do not care. We are still the non-humans that they felt like we were before. It has not changed at all. And it's a crying shame. Now you have that person in the White House that's supposed to be
monster in chief.
Huh?
The monster in chief.
I can't. Yep, that one. I can't call this name. I'm trying to, keep my nerves straight to this evening. It's been a nice day. It really has been a pretty cool day. Not only, and I was watching the news, they said he's checked out. He never checked in. He's around here throwing all kinds of little bows and arrows like a little kid, little baseballs, and little bananas over here, and little grapes over here. And it's like nothing is going on. They fired all the security people, and now he's put his loyalists in their place. I mean, it's just a crime. Meanwhile, Corona is raging. I mean, really raging. It's going to be a sad day this winter. I am convinced it's going to be just like it was in March and April and May.
Laurie Garrett says it's going to be worse than that.
And I just heard Fauci, but it wasn't Fauci, it was another scientist today. I can't remember his name, but I've seen him many times before. He was talking about the holidays coming up. He said, if you love your people, let's get the Thanksgiving Day get together, unless it's your immediate family and your immediate home. Mother, father, children, adult children, and if you got grandchildren, that might not be a good idea because it depends on where you live, what's going on. You might not be exposed to them all the time. So if it's just in your home where you're exposed to them, 75 to 100% of the time, those are people that you need to be gathering with. Okay. He said, and he suggested you, other than that, stay in your house. This is what science said. Stay in the house. Stay in the house. Period.
Yeah.
And and he wasn't being scholarly about it. He just like, stay in the house. Stay in the house. If you're not getting essentials, there's no reason for you to take that risk this winter. You should not be gathering with anyone this winter. You know, so, you know, and he came out and said it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty even if we have 50% of the people take heed to these recommendations. But it's going to be really, really ugly if you don't.
Yeah.
Because our healthcare workers are still going to be out there. That's what he's saying. So we don't need you to add anything to that mix. They're still going to be out there exposed. The people that have become ill. You know, our essential workers are still going to be exposed. So we don't need you to add extra. Okay, so stay home. Stay in your house, mind your business, skip Thanksgiving and Christmas, you know.
Well, yeah, but, you know, we've got the super spreader in chief.
Yes.
Who, you know, at this point, he's trying to raise money to fund his coup.
I can't believe that. I'm sitting there like, are you kidding?
You know, in his future electoral plans. And, you know, I mean, he's very likely to be hosting rallies.
Yes.
Thanksgiving rally, Christmas Day rally, you know, throughout the holiday.
One Republican senator today, I think, if I'm not, I didn't get all the gist of it. I was watching NASDAQ, has contributed $1 million of his campaign fund to Trump so he could fight his cause, which is all of their cause. I didn't even know you could do that. I'm like, okay.
Right.
I didn't know you could do that. This is some new stuff to me. But yes, he did. $1 million.
I'd rather see that happening than to see Trump having rallies all over the country.
Oh, he's still going to do that. No.
Because what happens is, you know, all these people get infected and then they go back to their communities.
Yes.
You know, with a fresh dose of the shit.
Yes.
So it's just really, it's.
Yes. Yes. So it's going to be something else. It really is going to be something else. Yeah, it's going to be something else.
So with Americans now so clearly divided, do you believe Biden will be able to keep his promise to be the president for all Americans?
Yes. I believe that he's going to keep his promise because I really believe he's a good person. Not just a politician, but a good person. However, America is still going to be divided. But he will attempt to be the president for all people.
Yeah, I agree.
No doubt about that. But we're going to stay divided. That's just not going to be
Why is
fixed. That? Yes. You know.
Why do you think we're going to stay divided?
Because it's so many things going on at one time. It's a perfect storm. All this going on at one time. The Biden is not, you know, he's not the second coming of Jesus Christ. I mean, here we go. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have magical powers.
Mm-hmm.
He can only be the best person that he can be to stimulate other people to be the best people that they can be. To not have hatred and biases in their heart and come together. But he just is not, you know, this type of hatred. Now, I've seen a lot of stuff, but this is some new stuff for me. I've dealt with racism and so have you, and biasness and all that stuff all our life. But it's some new stuff. So people, you know, like I said, he's encouraging it by being the best person he can be and by guaranteeing you that he's going to be the president for all people. But this is some deep-seated new stuff. It's going to take a whole lot more than Biden to even begin to repair that. Because again, this is Donald Trump's, it's the second time he was running. Mm-hmm. We had more people vote for Trump than it did before, decided to come out and vote.
Yeah.
and that person in the White House has screwed all kinds of crazy. So, it's Biden, that's all he can do is what he can do and be the best he can be and have people around him that are being the best they can be. And we did have an equal amount and actually more people that are trying to be the best people they can be, which is why he was elected president. But if you think for a minute that this deep-seated innate ugly that you see is going to go, Biden is just, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And the most optimistic person in the world, God bless you. And I feel the same way you do. I hope, but it's not realistic.
Yeah.
He's going to have daggers thrown at him. I mean, look at that person in the White House now. Go home. The party's over. You lost.
Go home. Go home.
Go home. Go home. Make America great again by carrying.
Where would he go? Where would he go? We don't want him in New York.
I don't know, but make America great again by carrying your ass home. Really, because we can make America great if we can start the process. Yeah. Carry your behind home.
Yeah.
You got plenty of money. You got 3 golf courses, what you ain't made, you stolen. You're doing pretty good. Go home. Leave people alone with your crazy.
Well, I hope he goes to Mar-a-Lago or
he ain't going to Mar-a-Lago. No, he's not going that close. He got to go out the country.
Or someplace, but he's not going anywhere until he
tear this country down.
Until he finishes this fight to see if he can actually pull off a coup in America. And so as excited as people are, as relieved, as happy as people are, it's not yet the time to let down our guard. There's still this very important race going on in Georgia for the Senate seats, January 5th. So whatever people can do to support the Democratic candidates there, send money, make phone calls, post stuff, whatever you can do, do it. And we have to keep our eye on Trump because he's not done with us yet.
Oh no, he's been quiet. He's been on Twitter a little bit, but he has been on Twitter because I heard that too. On CNN, he's been tweeting a little bit of crazy out, but not the typical barraging of crazy. Okay, no. So if he's quiet, he was at the veterans, when in Washington today, having all those veterans turn in their grave that he called punk asses. Oh, really? He stood there with Melania looking like the poor lost hope. He didn't address any questions from any reporters. He said nothing to anyone about anything. So that fool not only is doing this narcissistic thing, he's doing some crazy stuff. He's quiet.
Yeah, that's getting
that high. Yeah, he's getting that high from somewhere. He's not capable of being this quiet this long. So that means he's doing something over here that is sinister because he has to get that stroke from somewhere. Something is going on. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then you have
I agree with you. It's going to be really tough for Biden to keep his promise. I think it genuinely, he genuinely does want to be president for all the people. Mm-hmm. But I think you're right. I think what's different is the level of crazy going on. The number of people who just really are completely untethered, completely disconnected from reality, completely living in an alternate zone.
Yes.
I guess for them, their world is their reality. Um, but it's the reality that the 70 million people are living in is very different than the reality that the 74, I think we're up to 75, 76 million now for Biden. Very different worlds. And so, yeah, while there have always been divisions, you know, there's been more of a shared understanding of what reality is. And, you know, we would have differences on what to do about the reality, but it wasn't this fight that we're having about what is reality. You know, and so that is really, I think, just the result of decades of media programming, decades of undereducation, you know, decades of drug abuse, decades of you know, just really the proliferation of cult type leaders. You know, remember when Jim Jones came on the scene?
That was horrible. I remember everything about that too. Actually, yes, it was horrible. The Jim Jones massacre. Yes, it was absolutely horrible. Cult leader.
Yeah.
A lot of Haitian people were a part of his cult, which were that was another sad day in history.
By comparison, it was small potatoes. You know, this feels like Donald has, you know, really somehow captured a much larger number of people. And I don't believe it's everybody. I don't believe all of those 70 million are caught up in the cult of Donald. But I do think it's a, you know, pretty high number.
Well,
you know, some of them are probably just afraid of him and his vindictive, you know, evil approach to people.
Right.
You know, and they know he's, you know, they know he's a monster. But for those people who seem to genuinely love him, those are the ones who really, you know, I think flip the script here for us, put us in a different danger, put us in a different path of danger.
And also too, the people that voted for him massaged him well. Again, it's not like this is the first time in 2016. Although he said enough things and told you everything he was going to do, they have seen it. They have come back again and said, we like what we see.
Right.
That's what's scary to me. It's not even the first, okay, 2016, I can say, oh, y'all lost a temporary consciousness and, you know, you don't know what you're doing. No. These same people plus came back and said, I like what I said.
You know, that reminds me, and you've heard me say this before, but regarding the 55% of white women who voted for him, one of my therapist friends told me a while ago that she has had so many white women who come to her for therapy. She's a Black woman, come to her for therapy because they are struggling with the guilt of having allowed themselves to be pressured by their husbands into voting for Donald Trump, even though they can clearly see Donald is a monster. Um,
I don't feel sorry for
and
him.
and there was some talk during this campaign about white women saying, we're not gonna succumb to that pressure this time. And they succumbed.
Well,
what went wrong?
And what went wrong is people align themselves with people that have similar values and interests like themselves. I don't feel nothing but bad feelings about that. I don't have any empathy or sympathy or anything that aligns with that. Once you got in that voting booth, girl, because it couldn't be religion, because you can't say that you're a godlike person and hear the ugly and hatred this man is spitting out along with your spouse that you lay down with every night and say that I'm a Christian person. Still, even if you sat there in front of your husband and say, "You go, Bob, I'll pass the Miller. Here's your Ritz crackers." Once you got in that booth, now see, that's how I'm coming from a different perspective, coming from a Black woman's perspective. Once I got in that booth, he would have known what circle I marked.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to hear anything about the poor white woman and all her bullshit. I'm tired of hearing about that. Okay? Stop wasting your money going there looking for sympathy or empathy, I should say, because you can't get none from me. What you should be talking about is what is your problem, not about the guilt you feel because you voted for Donald Trump, because you felt like you were pressured by either that caste in your family or your husband or your circle of white girlfriends, whatever the hell you did. You need to be talking to a psychiatrist about other things. Like, no, I'm not going to be funny.
Like what, Venita?
I'm just giving a suggestion. If you're gonna be, paying money, it's very expensive. There's a lot of us that would love to go to a psychiatrist, but we can't afford it. But no, really.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that I know would love to go to psychiatrists or analysts, but they can't afford it. So if you are privileged in that way, to go there, you need to be discussing other things. Because there's no excuse. You get no pass from me. You get no empathy from me. Okay? And I can't say how I really feel, because it wouldn't be very ladylike in real life. But you get nothing from me. I'm sorry, Michelle, was that where you're going? Was that the direction you were going in? I don't want to hear about nothing about this. No.
Pretty much. Yeah.
I figured you was going some crazy like that.
It was disappointing. It was disappointing to me to see that outcome.
No.
I mean, it was especially, I think, disappointing after seeing so many white women who came out in protest after George Floyd's killing, who were out there for days and weeks and months, facing real violence from the police. That had really given me a little hope that they had found a source of courage and realism that would translate into the voting booth. But it didn't happen.
No. Yeah. Again, they get no pass. No pass. And for those few white women that came out, compared to the amount of white women in this country, the few that came out, I give them their props. Whatever drew you out there. It's apparent that you do know right from wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. But the other, the majority of them want, again, this is the second term. You are just reaffirming your feelings. So stop wasting your time going to psychiatrist looking like an idiot. You did what you wanted to do to protect that white picket fence of yours, to protect that BMW of yours. Okay? Or if you don't have that, to protect that trailer park. that trailer, whatever. You were going out there for your own selfish, nasty ass reasons. It had nothing to do with your husband pressuring you. It had nothing to do with the. No, I'm not.
I'm gonna have to take the mic off you.
Well, I am just saying how I feel personally. I could be wrong.
No,
but that's what
I don't think you're wrong.
That's what I see. Okay. And that's why we're where we're at today, because everyone's in such denial, playing all these psychological games with themselves and all that stuff. Meanwhile, I have a right to feel any way I want to. I'm the recipient. I'm the one that's getting battered up.
Yeah.
While you sitting around playing games, going to your psychologist, talking to your whatever, I don't even know what you know what, Michelle? I was having a good day. What?
All right, I'm gonna read question 9 real quick and then we're gonna get out of here.
Okay, read 9, honey. Let's keep it moving.
There's no doubt in my mind that if the disease had appeared among Americans of Norwegian descent or among tennis players rather than gay men, the response of the government and medical community would be different. Charged powerful Democratic Party member, Congressman Henry Waxman of California. Do you agree with Waxman? How significant is it that 2 openly gay Black men, Mondaire Jones and Richie Torres, both Democrats of New York, have just been elected to Congress, bringing the total of openly LGBTQ people in Congress to 10? How do the demographics of COVID-19 shape the current national response?
Well,
I agree with Waxman that the demographics of the early victims of AIDS were a significant factor. Just like I think the demographics of COVID-19 are a significant factor in what got us off on really the wrong foot, because we have not forgotten how, it seemed that there was about to be some kind of national response when the demographics were not known. But once they became known, there just was very clearly a shift from a response to no response. In terms of the openly gay men being elected to Congress, congratulations to them, Mondaire Jones and Richie Torres. The significance, I don't know. So if there are 10 openly gay people in Congress now, there are what, 210 closeted gay people in Congress. I don't know, but I definitely think, if something like HIV/AIDS was just coming on the scene, that having gay people in Congress would have helped, would have made it a difference early on in how the country responded to that disease. But I think it's also, so much about the AIDS crises is what brought gay people into the political process in a loud and glaring way, brought them out of the closet. And Venita, of course, we were young women, and one of the big concerns for us at that point was men on the down low.
Yes.
Because there were still a lot of closeted gay people. And so, you know, if this was primarily a gay disease, which is, you know, I think our understanding in the early days, then how is it that these women were contracting it? And so that's how we started learning about the down low.
Yes.
But yeah, you know, as I see it, you know, not being a gay person, but just so from my perspective, it seemed like the AIDS epidemic actually helped a lot of people come out of the closet and get involved in the political process, so that we're now in a different position. And so that's what I mean by, if AIDS hit today, it would be a different position than it was in 1981, but we couldn't be where we are today without what happened in the 80s.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I do give a shout out for their win.
Yeah.
Yes. I definitely do a shout out for their win.
Yeah, I mean, be who you are.
I just always felt that way anyway. I just, you know, I can't even, to the day, I just can't get into that whole thing. Why are people all up in there like that?
Yeah.
I just like, you have to have someone to be down to make yourself feel bigger. And it's just a sad, sad thing. I still don't understand to the day. I don't understand. Why, what does it matter to you? I have gay friends. They're my friends that happen to share their sexuality with me. It did not determine whether I want to be their friend for 20, 30, 40 years. For them, it didn't determine whether they wanted me to be their friend because they did or did not share that information with me, which they don't have to, which is none of my damn business. You know, I don't walk around with a sign on my back and say I'm heterosexual. I don't feel like I have to meet new friends and say, well, you know, I'm a heterosexual. I mean, that's the laugh. That's what I'm saying. That's just how silly that is. That's I don't even understand the whole thing. I still to the day can't understand the whole thing. That's just that laugh to show you how silly that looks.
Yeah, it's taking us to a strange place. But you know, we have a woman on the Supreme Court now who apparently worked or was on the board of a private school that would not allow little Johnny and little Sally to attend the school if they had gay parents.
Yes, I read about that.
You could not work at the school if you had said to someone, I'm openly gay.
Yeah, I read that. Yep.
Yeah. So apparently it still matters to some people.
Yeah, it matters to some, again, mental illness is rampant. You and I both know that. It has to be some form of into mental illness. It, you know, goes beyond that whole, you know, family.
In a twisted way. In a twisted way, I think that it's caught up and bound up with this issue of shifting demographics.
Yes.
You know, I think I wonder how much of the anti-gay sentiment and anti-abortion sentiment are really about white people's fears that white women are not having enough babies?
They got so many fears, Michelle, which is why we are where we're at today. That would not surprise me. And that's probably one of the many fears that they have of, you know, the black folks, besides black folks are going to come in, per Trump, suburban white women, and bring your neighborhood down. So, you know, nothing surprises me. And I'm sure that's another part of their many fears.
Yeah.
You know, I read a lot about that about 20 years ago, because that was it was talked about quite a bit long before today. That, you know, the white population was going down, you know, was staying at a steady pace, and it was going down, and, you know, there's this whole movement, white women have more babies, and, you know, all that BS. I just find that, you know, it's just with some folks, and that could be any nationality of people, it just seems as they just have to have some issue. Again, with homosexuality, the same way I feel about abortion. What business is it of yours?
Right.
If a woman decides to have 20 babies, what business is it of yours?
Yeah, but I mean that takes me, you know, back to one of the earlier questions about, you know, why is it that white men have always had so much power in this country? Why do they continue to have so much power in this country? You know, really at the expense and to the detriment of everybody else.
Of course.
You know, and so I guess that's what leads me to wonder, you know, if this anti-gay, anti-abortion, you know, because you know that those two arguments in particular have been going on for as long as we've been alive.
Yes.
You know.
Well,
so what you know that's what I'm saying. What really is the problem?
But that's what I'm saying. That's why I was told to ask you. They got so much going on. It's been going on for so long.
Yeah.
What is really the problem? There's a problem with everything and everybody.
Yeah.
And one reason why I know the wealthy and also the upper middle class folks voted for Trump. The wealthy make a lot of sense because under Trump's non-policies, his non-government, he believes in hands-off. They have benefit tremendously. Their wealth has quadrupled. The upper middle class, believe it or not, with the pandemic and even with the unemployment being the way it is, has really not affected them a lot. It really hasn't. Economically, if you read about the economics that's happening right now, if you watch the NASDAQ or in Wall Street, it really has not affected them. They're doing pretty damn good. Really. Yes, they are. And the super wealthy, the big corporate owners, corporation owners, I should say, they're just gobbling up everything that's fallen. Along with that huge tax break, and the businesses that are falling, or the businesses before they even fall, they're just coming in and eating them all up.
Yeah.
Because the goal is to eventually have two places to go. You're going to Amazon or you're going to Walmart. Take your choice. So, I mean, and so this, you know, it's, most of this is white people's arguments. That's, you know, their fears. And I think a lot of the other things that are going on is a distraction. I'm no threat to the white power institutions. I don't have economic power. So it's not about me. It had nothing to do with me. I'm thrown there as a distraction. The Black people, the poor people, the people of color, the this, the that. Yeah, it's just all, it's not even about me. And people understand, look, everything is an illusion. Money's an illusion. Middle class is an illusion. All this shit is nothing real around you. That is also an illusion. They keep us busy with throwing these illusionary problems in there. And really, it has nothing to do with none of it. It really doesn't.
Which takes us back to the beginning of running for dinosaurs and dragons. Now, see, that was a real problem.
But that's what I'm saying. There were some real concerns that we had at one time. But these are all these are manufactured by the elites.
Right.
They just like color was manufactured. None of this exists.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. It's just to keep you busy, keep the masses busy, keep you in check while they over here doing what they want to do. Right. And they had that 500-year plan.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, and they're doing a very good job at it. So they actually have us fighting this invisible thing that really doesn't exist.
Right.
You know, all our energy is fighting this thing that they created that really doesn't exist. Yeah. So that it gives them the full reign of doing whatever they feel like doing. And that's how they stay in power. It's not from white women having babies. Because most of the power in this country is retained and has been retained by a few families for a very long time. So whether that middle class white woman have another baby again in the next 50 years is no consequences to them. It really isn't. And that's what's sad about it. That's what's so sad about it. But if you say that, there's some people, what do you mean? Racism is real. This is real. The only thing that's real is human bodies, the earth, and some hunger pains and elements that people are feeling right now because of this make-believe artificial thing that doesn't really exist, that's been thrown upon you to keep everyone busy while those few powerful family of people, because that's their only goal, as long as they're alive for generations, is to obtain as much wealth and control as many human beings, knee benders, and it doesn't discriminate now. That's the shocker. That's it. That's the goal. And that's why white folks, a lot of them are all upset. Because, again, I did post something and I said that he meant you. Because he did mean you. And now they're like, oh my Lord Jesus. Oh, get the rosaries. You know, you didn't say us. What you talking about us? I thought you was just talking about. And they came and asked me, I would told him back in 2016, he meant you too. He meant you too. And that's why you found more of it even came out. Because they want to give him a second chance. He's on a cusp. See, another thing you have to understand, the white people as a whole have their faith. Black people got their faith. Brown people got their faith. They got their faith too. And they're holding on. If you just give them a little more time, you know, just give them a little more time, he will be able to bring it home. They refuse to embrace the fact that he meant you too. You know, that's a lot to absorb. It's just like slavery for them is a lot to absorb. Their heads will blow up. Well, that's a lot because they've never had in our society, in the United States of America, I can't speak of other places, it being them.
Yeah, they've had white privilege.
White privilege. Donald Trump took that away. He said, oh, no, I don't think y'all understand. Nerd. I meant you too. I meant you too. And no, the wall's not built. Got 100 miles of it, but it's not built. But that was also that illusion to keep you busy. To keep you busy. So I can do what I want to do. That trickle down. That's where trickle down comes in. It don't trickle down to the poor, ever. It rarely ever trickles anywhere near the middle class and the lower middle class, period. And even a high middle class, since we have all these tiers, they don't even trickle to them. It was trickling, it's like a lateral trickle. It's almost like it's a trickle, where it doesn't come down, it just goes like this. It goes from one wealthy hand to the next wealthy hand. So I'm glad Biden is here. And I know he wants to do the right thing for all of us, but he is not going to change the mindset of this like monstrous ugly that is rallying behind this imaginary thing. And Donald Trump didn't do that. He didn't do that. There have been conditions since the time they set their foot in the United States or any other part of the world. So no, he's not going to change that. So,
Yeah,
I don't want to sound preachy. We got other things to think about. We got to think about reading our story, one story at a time. Right?
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the wisdom of Venita Walker. And on that note, we will see you next week. Reading our story together. Please wear your mask.
Yes.
Wash your hands.
Yes.
What else? What else? Stay 6 feet apart.
At least.
At least. And as Venita said, cancel Thanksgiving.
Cancel Thanksgiving. We have Zoom. You can Zoom grandma in, nieces, nephews in, everybody cook in their own house. Have your Thanksgiving food in front of you. Have a conversation. Have your little wine or eggnog. It's all good. It's all good.
It's good.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.